United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Forced into the Capitol by biting cold, Washington officials in many ways had a warmer welcome for the 47th president this time around. But after an inaugural address focused on the future,
2020, by the way, that election was totally rigged.
Trump returned to some familiar themes as he spoke to supporters right afterwards.
Liz Cheney is a disaster. She's a crying lunatic.
You and my Bill Maher dad got the exact same take on deporting undocumented migrants. If your dad is a Bill Maher stan, though, so if all those people are deported without getting killed, what are you to say? Wait, first of all, deportation is inherently a violent process. What are we talking about? You think that it's justifiable to deport 20 million people living on U.S. soil? No, I still think population transfer of this sort is still inherently fascist and completely unacceptable. No, man. Justifiable? No, man. It's degrees of different violence. Dude, what a crock of shit this is. I need you to understand something. Deportation of that sort, logistically, is, one, it's inherently violent, and logistically will lead to ethnic cleansing no matter what. And look no further than the many different instances where in American history, this exact same thing has happened. Dozens of my family members were systematically slaughtered. If they just got deported, I would have had hundreds of relatives that I don't have now. Dude, I'm sorry, chatter. I genuinely despise people who come in here and consistently go, no, it's his own special thing. Shut the up. The entire field of Holocaust studies and genocide studies in particular actually is against you. People did not study the Holocaust so they could always say, no, that's its own unique thing. Why does the ICJ look at the intentionality rather than the pure number of people that have been cleaned from an area, ethnically cleansed from an area? This doesn't make any sense. Think. Or do you think that there is some additional takeaways from that to make sure that this doesn't happen again? We must study how it got to that point so that we can stop it before it gets to that point again. Because if you say, all right, my bad, after the fact, well, too late, don't you think? It's a little too late at that point.
Earlier, Trump and First Lady Melania returned to the White House for a transition tradition.
What's the angle behind designating cartels as terrorist organizations? Designating anyone or anything, no matter how violent or evil they might be, as a terrorist organization is specifically done to deny habeas corpus and to violate the normal due process that would exist in that situation. And because they're a terror cell now, you can sign off on special operations, invade Mexico, basically, with your military force to target these terror cells. At the internally inside of the United States of America, you can utilize the military to say, we're combating against terrorism. These are cartel operatives within U.S. soil. They don't actually have to be cartel operatives, but you can now use that as a justification. You can also violate Mexico's sovereignty by saying, well, you can't deal with your cartels, so we're going to have to deal with it, and then conduct both raids internally and also conduct military operations on foreign soil.
With the outgoing president, one Trump had denied the Bidens 4 years ago.
Did you like my speech?
But only hours later, the new president insulted his predecessor.
One of the worst administrations in history, maybe not one of them, the worst.
Later, in the Oval Office, Trump was asked whether Biden left him a letter with advice, another presidential tradition.
He may have. Wait. Don't they leave it in the desk? I don't know. Oh.
Designating anyone as a terrorist is only done to justify killing them. Exactly. This is the same reason why Israel says they're fighting Hamas. Because if they were to say openly, and sometimes they do actually leak it, but if they were to say openly that like every Palestinian Arab is violent no matter what age and we must kill all of them, which they literally do still say sometimes, only in Hebrew, but whatever, people would look at that and go, well, okay, that's a little crazy. That's a little racist, don't you think? What the hell? It seems like you're doing racist ethnic cleansing here. But there's at least some semblance of plausible deniability if you say we're fighting terrorism. Trump gives ICE power to arrest people at schools and churches while using common sense. Trump admin says that ICE can arrest people in and near places such as churches and schools directing the agency to use common sense is a departure from the long-standing policy to avoid so-called sensitive areas. Dude, I'm telling you, Gestapo, ICE is straight up doing SS shit, and they're gonna do it. Trump said they're gonna do it, and they're gonna do it. And this time, unlike last time, there isn't even a limited amount of there isn't any semblance of judicial process here that can maybe even hold it up in the court system. You have a completely captive supermajority Supreme Court of the United States that will make everything that Trump wants to do constitutional. It's terrifying. Trump has issued an executive order that revises Muslim ban, but is also much worse. Here's a thread of the key aspects of the new ban. This is from legal scholar from the Quincy Institute, Mariam Jamshidi. Recommended any actions necessary to protect the American people from the actions of foreign nationals who have undermined or seek to undermine the fundamental constitutional rights of the American people, including but not limited to our citizens' right to freedom of speech and free exercise of religion protected by the First Amendment, who preach or call for sectarian violence, the overthrow or replacement of the culture on which our constitutional republic stands, or who provide aid, advocacy, or support for foreign terrorists. That part of the Muslim ban is specifically for college students. College students, many of which who are foreigners on international visas from many different countries, will be targeted under Project Esther, which is Project 2025's specific anti-Palestine division, where they will look at college students that have said free Palestine and try to deport them. This was also pre-written and pre-designed by the very same group that brought you Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation. Ironically enough, who provide aid, advocacy, or support for foreign terrorists, kind of goes against the exercise of religion protected by the First Amendment, who preach or call for sectarian violence. Yeah. So no matter where you are from, if you say free Palestine, for example, and you're on a student visa, the government will try to come after you and deport you. I suspect that this process will require the federal government to set up Department of Homeland snitch lines and hotlines specifically that can easily be undermined with a couple people that know how to code, I suspect. I suspect that a lot of this resistance will be decentralized and hopefully with a lot of plausible deniability. I would never urge people to do such things if such a hotline was to exist. Of course, I would never.
Sources tell CBS News Trump is also planning to ramp up operations to arrest unauthorized immigrants across major U.S. cities this week as he pledges to oversee the largest deportation effort in U.S. history. Chicago is now bracing for raids to detain and deport.
The new president tells us very clear. Everybody is the enemy. All the immigrants is the enemy.
Yesenia Ramirez has lived and worked in the U.S. while undocumented for 20 years. She spoke about the fear spreading in her community.
You don't see it, but you feel it. You have the panic attacks. You can't sleep.
Less than 24 hours into his second term, Trump also signed orders to keep asylum seekers in Mexico while awaiting immigration hearings, labeled drug cartels as terrorist organizations, and promised to send troops to the southern border. Last month, Border Patrol encountered around 96,000 foreign nationals at the southern border, down from more than 300,000 in 2023.
The Texas National Guard is already stationed here on the Texas-Mexico border and has been since 2021. Now, President Trump also signed an order going after birthright citizenship for children born in the U.S. to unauthorized immigrants, but that is already facing legal challenges from immigrants' rights advocates.
That's just against the Constitution, by the way. Straight up. Not even a joke, not even a meme. That is just completely unconstitutional. The real joke, of course, is claiming something is unconstitutional and expecting the Supreme Court to abide by that standard. None of that matters. We already know that the Supreme Court is completely captive to the whims of the current administration, and they will do their bidding.
Tom Homan, thank you so much for joining me. I want to ask with something that you said last night, that your deportation operation starts today. Did it?
Yeah, ISIS, they're out there enforcing law out today. And of course, as I've said numerous times, they're concentrating on public safety threats. That'll be our priority right out of the gate. So ICE officers are back to doing their job.
Where are these, are they actual raids? And how is it different from what we saw yesterday or the day before?
Well, look, I wouldn't call them raids. They're target enforcement operations. They know exactly who they're looking for. They know pretty much where they'll find them.
Well, I'm going to follow up on that in 1 second. But who is ICE going after right now? I know that you and others said several times that it is the people